It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. You gotta wonder, how is it J.D. Vance is so bad at campaigning? How do you go into Philadelphia and inquire about why the cheesesteaks don't come with Swiss cheese? I don't know how you do that. It's just, it shows that you're not listening to your handlers. It shows that you think you're smarter than everyone else, is what that really shows. Also went into the firefighters convention saying that Republicans are the most, how did it go? Donald Trump and him are the ticket that are the most worker friendly ticket ever, something along that line. And the firefighters, who historically have been moderate to conservative, booed loudly. And interesting photo ops coming out of that convention. You had a large contingent of firefighters wearing the UAW Trump is a scab t-shirts. So there is that. But, here's the thing. As I was listening to J.D. Vance talk about how he's the most pro-labor Republican ticket ever, I couldn't disagree, because the Republicans have been horrible. And this kind of flip-flop that they're doing. Well, we need something. And it made me think of an FDR quote years ago, where he said, every 4 years, Republicans come around and tell us how much they love labor. When there are votes involved, when they're trying to get your vote, they go, oh, we trust us. We care. And to make that point, understand, Donald Trump's the guy who's taking credit for overturning Roe. Donald Trump's the guy who's taking credit for getting into women's bedrooms and all of that stuff. He has now done the backflip of saying that if he's president, he's going to make the IVF, the in vitro fertilization, going to make that free. Now, remember, Republicans blocked legislation that would have made IVF access available. J.D. Vance voted against it as well. So interesting division of the ticket, because Trump's now, desperate and throwing out, no, we're going to have it free. I'm waiting for the moment where he's desperate enough to go, no, we're going to have drive-through abortion clinics. Don't worry about it. I'm waiting for it, because there's nothing they won't say. There's nothing they won't do to get your votes. And what we know is once they get into positions of power, they forget about you. They forget about us. Their tax bill from 2017, that their one legislative achievement, should tell everybody what their values are. They've shown us who they are, which is why when I saw this Kamala Harris ad that I thought was really good, it was talking about everybody saying, look, prices are high. We're going to go after price gougers. We're going to, make home affordability more accessible, all this stuff. But there was a line in there that I thought was really important, where she said, if you want to know who someone cares about, look at who they fight for. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. Not when votes are on the line, not when you're campaigning, but when you're actually legislating, when you're actually doing work that most people aren't paying attention to. And when that happened, we saw who Donald Trump was. Donald Trump made sure that corporate America was fat and happy, made sure that the wealthy didn't have to pay taxes. We know who he's fighting for. And I look at the Democrats right now, and I say this without reservation. These folks are trying to fight for everyday working people like never before in my lifetime. Now, I've always been really harsh to Democrats for their lack of messaging, for their lack of really giving a rat's behind about average everyday working people. But this party, I think, gets it. And I think this is a testament to Joe Biden. I think this is Biden's leadership. I think this is the transformational change that we've been talking about here on the program that has moved the Democratic Party in the direction back to where they were. So for the people who say, "Oh, these are radical communists, liberals," no, this is who Democrats were. This is the Democratic Party of my grandparents, saying we're going to use government to make lives better. We're going to encourage collective bargaining. We're going to do things that make sense. For instance, you talk about health care. Now remember, who are you fighting for? Obama used a lot of political capital to get the Affordable Care Act through. I wish it was better. I wish it was different. I wish there were things that we would have done differently, but we got what we got for a whole bunch of reasons, and a lot of it's conservative Democrats. But we got something, first time ever. And I've said for the longest time, we hold on to this, we improve it, systematically make it better, make it more affordable, make it wider services, all of that stuff, to eventually we get down the road that we do have something of a national service, that no one goes uninsured. You go back to the Trump years where he wanted to repeal and replace, never said what he was going to replace it with. When he was interviewed, he talked about it like it was car insurance, telling me he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, but never had a plan. So had John McCain not saved the Affordable Care Act, we probably would have ended up with nothing, which is where Republicans want it. Pay or die has always been their plan. But I look at the numbers that are in, and thanks to our friends over at Capital and Maine for putting out this report, but it shows the different worlds. In the Biden-Harris universe, residents in this country without health insurance fell by 3 million during the first 2 years. During Trump's first 3 years, not the pandemic year, the number of uninsured rose by 2.3 million. We are now at the lowest level in the nation's history of people who are uninsured. And the uninsured across all swing states fell during Biden's first 2 years, while the same time frame increased under Trump. I mean, and we could go through moment after moment where the differences are stark. We are now seeing more people insured, more people getting care, more people having access, more people not going bankrupt and broke, as opposed to when the Trump years were going on, everything was on the negative. And I generally don't like those kind of scenarios because they don't always seem accurate, but I'm looking at these numbers and I'm going, they don't lie. When you have 47 states across the country in Biden and Harris's first 2 years see decreases in the number of uninsured, places like Arizona, Georgia, Michigan. When you see hundreds of thousands of people getting insurance for the first time and access to care, while on the other side you saw the exact inverse. There's something there. There's a policy thing. There's something there that maybe we should be paying attention to. And look, I look at this on a number of issues, not just health insurance. During the Trump years, there was an opportunity to do a lot of things on the labor front. They chose not to. They chose to go in the complete opposite direction. So for me, this election cycle, really, really very important. And look, if you haven't heard me say it before, Project 2025 is out there. Maybe you've heard of it. You can look it up online. It's there. This is the mastery of the right. They are putting out their bad ideas for everyone to read and how they want to transform this country because their hatred for America is on display. They hate who we are, and they want to transform us into something they believe we once were or something that they've pined for us to be for a very long time. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Project 2025 and the, repeal of, our grandparents' existence. Back after this.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So again, I got to tell you, I think it's fairly cute that Donald Trump is running away from Project 2025. And as we've been talking about for months on this program, this whole endeavor to repeal the 20th century, bring back patronage, make patronage great again, and, well, of course, weaponize government in favor of the wealthy, the powerful, the well-connected, and against those of us who get up and punch a clock every day and try to make ends meet. It's amazing to me, but I'll tell you, I do believe that Trump, I don't think Trump has any idea what's in it. I don't think he reads anything. I don't think anybody's really told him anything. And if he did, in one ear, out the other. But it is just as dangerous with or without him. And that's why I've asked Joe Rosdovich to come talk with us. Joe is Vice President of Campaigns and Outreach for the Center for American Progress Action Fund. We'll get links out on social media. I can take a look at their work. Joe, thanks for taking time for us.
Good to be here. Good to be with you.
So let's start with the Project 2025 denial. Trump is saying doesn't know anything about it. He's denounced it. His campaign is running away from it. I do like the Tim Walz point of when they draw up a plan, they're probably going to use it. But do you think Trump knows intimately what's in this? Do you think that this is his baby?
Well, I think first point is Americans already know this is kind of what Trump wants to do. There's a poll out last week, Navigator, sort of 51% of Americans believe this is Trump's plan. So from just the politics of this, like people know this is his blueprint, as Coach Walz was saying. You know, in terms of does Trump know all 920 pages? I'm not sure that he does, but his past administration tried to do a lot of these things. So the harm is already happening. Right. I mean, you can take a look at any number of these things, but like overtime pay, for example. You know, we're talking about a plan that would get rid of overtime protections for about 4 million people all across the country. People, once you work over 40 hours a week, you get a certain amount more if you put in more hours every single week. They tried to get rid of those when he was in power before. So I'm not sure how much he knows or cares about every piece of the plan, but the harm is still going to hit all of us.
No, as I've said from the beginning, this has been the right-wing think tank world's wet dream list. This is the stuff that they've been working on for years, and Trump is a guy who wants to sign stuff and look good and do press conferences and stuff. So it looks like he's actually doing something. I don't think he cares about what he's doing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think he really cares. Just as long as people are talking nice about him.
Except for, delivering tax cuts for those at the very top, I don't think he really cares and how much he's making out of it. But I don't think he cares about who he hurts, which is, this is why, I bring up the overtime piece.
Right.
Or, something, we're coming up on Labor Day, obviously. People listening here know the score. Look at something like child labor laws. So in Project, 2025, it's crazy. But on page, I have it here, it's 586. They want to get rid of all the protections for child labor. They want to get rid of and allow kids as young as 14 to work inherently dangerous jobs. And think about what the labor movement and working people have been able to accomplish to actually build a middle class in this country. One of the things was about making sure that 14-year-olds would be sitting at a desk in school, getting ready to be part of the middle class, getting ready to learn a trade, and not just helping some rich guy in some factory.
Yeah, not on the kill floor of the local wheat factory. No, No, but
look at Arkansas. They passed a law to let kids work, not prove their ages. In Iowa, they want kids to be able to work in meatpacking plants, very dangerous facilities. So this isn't like some idle threat.
No, but what this is it's what we've been saying on this program for years. What the right wants is they want, to take us back to the Lochner era and even worse. This idea that government can do nothing to make your life better. That government shouldn't be involved in setting minimum wages, maximum hour laws, safe working conditions, child labor laws, any of this stuff. And this document lays that out quite meticulously, especially when you start looking at they want to destroy the Department of Education, they want to destroy the child labor laws, and because they want the kids in the workplace competing against mom and dad.
Yeah, lower wages and make more money for people at the top. And I'm pretty sure, folks listening to your program know the score, they know their history. They know what the labor movement's been able to deliver and to build a middle class. These are all the things they want to chip away at. And, you're right. They put all of this in one place. Some of these ideas are not new, right? You said the right-wing think tank world, they've been dreaming of this stuff for a long time. What's new is really the most dangerous part of this. And also what's really weak about it is they want to get rid of our civil service, gut some of the checks and balances that have protected these things to get around what the American people actually want. The American people wouldn't want to get rid of the Department of Education. American people don't want to get rid of Head Start. But if they are allowed to, take total control of government, get rid of the civil service, put in a bunch of loyalists, they'd be able to do those things.
Yeah. No, like I said,
the plan is so unpopular.
No, they want to make patronage great again. We've seen, if you go back through our history, we've seen how this plays out, and it never works out well for working people. It never works out well for those of us who need government to provide some services. It always works out well for the people who control the levers and line their pockets, but never for those of us who are, the disconnected, the folks who need help sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that part of what's been really, enlightening to a lot of people about Project 2025 is it lets everyone sort of really understand what the two kind of futures could look like. What they want to do and what a, Vice President Walz, President Harris would want to do for working people. No. And it's getting out of just the characters and the tweets and the nonsense of like, how would this really impact people? And this puts it all down.
No, it's an excellent point. I say that, what they want to turn this country into is the hellscape that they tell us that it is. Because we went to Chicago, I had a great time there at the Democratic convention. We went around the city at night. I didn't see dumpsters burning. I didn't see the kind of chaos and the kind of, burning hellscape that I was told I would encounter. And, I go to this, to some of my red hat friends, and the world that they think seems to be what Project 2025 wants to turn us into.
Well, I think, that's an interesting point. They want to create such fear about where we are. And we have big problems to deal with, for sure. And we shouldn't paper over those things. And I think sometimes too many Democrats are a little too willing to just skate along with the status quo. And that needs to be called out whenever it happens. I think working people do that all the time. But you mentioned crime. Yeah. So we had a crime sort of spike after COVID. Hits both parties. It doesn't matter who your mayor is or what county you're in. And it's been coming down and coming down and coming down. And that's not something you're hearing about in Fox News, right? They're going to create, find some clip, maybe it's AI, and create the impression that it's as bad as it's ever been, when that's just not true.
Now, you bring up our media because, again, you talked about the overtime thing a minute ago, and I had talked about this months ago. And immediately, that's not true. They're not getting rid of overtime. They're just, justify it how you will. And they're not getting rid of overtime, but they are making it to where the bar to get it will be nearly impossible. Because instead of a 40-hour work week, you're looking at a 160-hour work month. And, right. It's one of those things where I know a lot of industries are heavy during certain points, light during, and this idea that it's going to be voluntary, that you're going to have the choice is just ludicrous to me on so many levels. And but it's our media who doesn't inform us on the realities of this stuff and plays this kind of both sides are equal when they're not.
Right. I think the overtime is a great example there. I think another great example there is around Social Security. So they have a plan. It's in the Republican Study Committee budget, would raise the retirement age. And, that would hit, it's 8.4 million people in Ohio. 9.1 million people in Pennsylvania would have their retirement age raised to get Social Security benefits. And over the course of your lifetime, you're looking at losing up to $100,000 during your retirement because of that, because of how it changes your benefits. And you'll get some fact checker saying like, oh, well, like it's not exactly in this part of whatever plan. And like, well, it's in this budget that the Republicans put forward in the House. They've been talking about it for years. The Heritage Plan, their authors, same folks who helped write that budget. You don't think that if they get the opportunity to, they're going to raise the retirement age? Because as they've said, they want more people in the workforce. Well, is that supposed to be 14-year-olds and 70-year-olds? Because that's what it was like.
Yes, no, that's what it's supposed to be. You work till you die. Again, I say, go back to the good old days of the 80s and 90s, and not the 1980s and 90s, to where you did work until the day you died.
Yeah. No, they want to roll all of that back. And we're not going back, right? I mean, we got only, 68, 69 days to do all this work, to get people to wake up to what's going to happen here. And only 40,000 some votes in 2020 decided the race. So no matter where you are, there's a race that's close. You've got some nephew, some cousin, some aunt who needs to get a call, is my guess.
And that's the work that needs to be done. And that's what came out of the convention. Look, I don't know if you were there, but the environment was electric. People were all ramped up, ready to go. It's an energy level that I've never been a part of before and seen before. My question coming out of it was, will that, then equate to people going out and doing the door knocking and the phone calling? And I'm inundated all day with emails and texts. So it looks like it's happening.
I think so. One thing I saw at the convention too was as a party and as a vehicle to actually help build a middle class and help working people get to the middle class and have some stability. This is a party that's a lot more confident and a lot more willing to throw a punch and a lot more willing to call the score. And that was great to see. And I think that's energizing for people.
And the other thing for me, if I don't mind me cutting you off here, it's the idea that government can make lives better. And I look at the example of Tim Walz, the fact that he took a job as a 7th grade track coach, and I know people are going to be are tired of hearing me say this. Took a job as a 7th grade track coach to pay off some school lunch debt, and then becomes governor and makes sure that never has to happen again. Took his life experiences, went to government, used government as a way to solve a problem that he himself experienced and that people across the state were experiencing. That to me is the kind of guy and the kind of people I want in government. Yes. People are going to fix things, get things done.
Yeah. And that was something that I thought I took away from President Obama's speech was about, this is the exact kind of person we want in government. Someone who has that life experience, someone who's going to call it like it is, hold a bureaucrat accountable when they're the ones who are getting a little too cute with something or trying to get away with something, just as likely as they are to hold a big company accountable. And I think you look at what, Governor Walz was able to do in Minnesota, my home state, it's all been about providing more stability and growing the middle class. That's making sure kids can eat when they get to school so they can learn, whether that's paid family medical leave. I mean, these are things that are kind of basic common sense things that we can only do if we're all working together.
Yeah. Now, this Project 2025, and again, I've spent a lot of time on this over the last several months. There's a world view that conservatives, that corporatists, I don't want to call Republicans conservatives today because they're really not, in my mind, conservatives that I remember. But today's conservatives, let's go with that. Yeah. It's a world that they want to see where desperation, where poverty seems to be on the rise, and the handful win over the rest of us. On the flip side, is there a plan like this that Democrats are running on that they're saying, hey, this is the world view? Because I think people want to see that kind of, that balance. Okay, this is what Republicans are telling us they want to do. What's Harris and Walz? What's their vision? Yeah.
Well, I think, Project 2025 begs the question, all right, this is their vision. It's dangerous and very unpopular. But what do Democrats want to do? And that's a totally fair question. I think, unlike their side, we're going to put out our vision and we're going to let people choose between the two. They want to take total control to just do what they want. They don't want to let the American people decide. In terms of, the bedrock ideas, I think the vision we have as a party is really focused on, and I think both Governor Walz, Vice President Harris showed this last week. One, the freedom to make your own decisions, and two, the opportunity to actually get a middle-class life if you work hard. And there's a lot of things that go underneath that. But on freedom, certainly we're talking about abortion rights. We're talking about the right to be able to join a union. We're talking about the right to vote and making sure that that's secured, with the Supreme Court that gets rid of the Voting Rights Act. In terms of opportunity and building a middle class, that's got to start with, when you look at taxes, what they did last time around, right? They've got a plan here in Project 25. We haven't brought this up. It would raise taxes on the middle class. Average family of four, I have this in Wisconsin, $3,000 a year more in taxes. Whereas people who make $10 million a year more, they would get $1.5 million cut. So in terms of rewarding hard work, building middle class, it's got to start with lowering taxes on people who actually work. And then it's about investing in those things like childcare, like affordable housing, like lowering deductibles on healthcare to make a middle class life a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, and yet all I heard about Harris's tax plan was they're going to raise taxes on my 401k. And I'm like, I wish I would pay that tax, because it would mean I have $100 million in my 401k. But it's this kind of, again, this both sidesism media that doesn't quite seem to hit the main points very well.
No, and they're trying to hit her on everything with the what's happening in the grocery stores. They're talking about, groceries are low margin business. Sure, that's fine. I was watching Fox News, and you watch the opposition too. And their own chart, they were showing that the profit margin for some of these grocers were double what it was typically in 2020 and 2021. It was double what it was in the other times. Okay, well that sounds like there's some extra room there, and the media's gonna ding everyone on either sides, but I think when you look at things like taxes, especially on how that's impacting the middle class, someone's actually got a plan for more affordable housing, helping first-time home buyers, versus Project 2025 that would raise mortgage rates by $1,200 a month because of what they want to do with Fannie and Freddie. And that's from Mark Zandi. That's not from Center for American Progress. So I think you can take a whole bunch of issues about what real people are actually going through and compare and contrast, make your own decision here. It's pretty clear who's going to be working for the middle class.
No, I mean, we didn't even get into the whole, gutting our system of checks and balances, going after national security, going after veterans. We didn't talk about any of that stuff, but it's all in there. And I encourage people to take a look at their Project 2025. It's still online. You can keyword.
Still get the book.
I can get the book. I just say, take it online because it's easier to search with keywords. And I don't want to give them any money.
No.
But it's there for us while it's still there. I say take a look at it. But Joe Razdovich, I appreciate you taking some time for us. As always, great talking with you.
Good to talk to you.
I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Have you seen the project? Have you seen the Project 2025 and the wanting to make patronage great again? I want to hear what you think. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Right back. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1907. That was the day labor leader Luisa Moreno was born in Guatemala City. As a young woman, she fought for the admission of women into Guatemalan universities. After attending journalism school in Mexico City, Luisa moved to New York with her husband and worked as a seamstress. Outraged by low pay, racial discrimination, and poor working conditions, she led organizing efforts on the job. During the Great Depression, she worked as a full-time union organizer, first with the AFL, organizing black and Latina cigar rollers in Florida. But she also became active with the Communist Party and joined CIO efforts to organize cannery workers. Luisa led unionizing efforts of pecan shelling women workers in San Antonio, Texas, and then of cannery workers in Los Angeles. In 1938, Luisa helped organize the Spanish-speaking People's Congress. During World War II, she fought against discrimination in hiring of Mexicans in oil and war-related industries. In the 1940s, she became centrally involved in high-profile legal defense cases of Mexican-American youth prosecuted on frame-up charges. These included work around the 1942 Sleepy Lagoon case and then of victims of the Zoot Suit riots a year later. She continued union union work in California, helping to organize and represent walnut pickers. By 1950, she was caught in the crosshairs of the McCarthy-era witch hunts. Louisa was targeted by Operation Wetback and offered citizenship status in return for testimony against radical labor leader Harry Bridges. When she refused, she faced deportation on the accusation that she had once been a member of the Communist Party. She returned to Guatemala and continued organizing workers throughout Central America. Luisa Moreno died in Guatemala in 1992. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
I've got those Payday Friday grocery store blues. That working class lament is from an old bluegrass song, but millions of working stiffs are singing it today. While many workers have finally seen an uptick in their paychecks, they've been dismayed to see the increase quickly gobbled up by jacked up grocery prices. What the hell? Kamala Harris has had the honesty to call it what it is, gouging. And to put some bite in her bark, she's proposing a long overdue national ban on rip-off pricing by food giants. Of course, this produced outraged squeals by corporate functionaries, but some of the most furious squealing is coming from a supposedly unbiased corner of America's economic structure, economists. A little-known secret of this occult profession is that most economists are schooled by and working for the corporate order, generally hostile to consumers, workers, and other competing interests. One absolute rule they learn is that none of the inequities and iniquities of America's laissez-faire land economy are to be blamed on corporate greed. Thus, a whole pack of mainline economists raced to poo-poo Harris's price gouging charge, asserting that grocery prices have naturally surged due to what they benignly call price pack architecture. Bovine excrement. Price gouging cannot be perfumed by semantics. It is mass swindling, and people can detect it by its stench. So let's follow that stench to its anti-free enterprise source, monopoly. For the past half-century, economists in both Republican and Democratic administrations have looked the other way, allowing food giants to consolidate and conglomerate, shut out competitors, monopolize every aspect of the food economy, and steal. This is Jim Hightower saying it's that theft that Harris is daring to challenge, and Americans will cheer her on no matter how furiously establishment economists squeal.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I'm looking at there are a number of veterans organizations who are condemning Donald Trump and his campaign for their recent attempt to exploit fallen soldiers at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 60, basically using it as a backdrop for one of their political ads. And I got to tell you, I'm not surprised that they did it. Not at all. This is who they are. It's who they've been. It's who they're going to be. What is surprising to me is this time it seems people are paying attention. This time, maybe a little bit. Trump has gotten away with so many distasteful comments and behavior that I'm a bit surprised that that's still, a couple of days afterwards, still having some blowback. And here to share some thoughts on what happened and, what we should be doing as a society when people do stuff like this. I've asked my good friend Rich Ojeda to come share some thoughts. Rich is the host of Ojeda Live, a nightly hit on YouTube and Facebook at 8:30 p.m. Check that out. Also, chief cook and bottle washer over at the Turn Left Pack, turnleftpack.org, their website. Rich, thanks for taking time for us.
I always enjoy coming on your show, Rick.
So walk me through what happened, because, there's been a lot of reporting on it. I want to get your thoughts on what happened and why what they did was what has gotten attention.
Well, first off, I want to state that the moment that Donald Trump was adjudicated as a rapist and then was also found guilty on 34 felony counts, he should have been removed from any list of people that we work with to do things like place wreaths at the tomb of the unknown soldier. So when I first saw him doing that wreath, it bothered me because I was like, there's no reason why he should be there, especially now after all that has come out. Then they go over to basically plot 60, which is where the newer, people who have recently passed away, that's where they are. And here's the thing. you cannot use Arlington National Cemetery as a political backdrop, period. There is a line that you do not cross, and they crossed it. They were told, do not do this. You can't take photographs here. And they literally verbally and physically assaulted a young lady that works at Arlington National Cemetery. And of course they did it was straight up a photo op. You could watch what they were doing, what Donald Trump and them were trying to do. And it's the wrong thing. You don't get to do that, and then of course you have, if one family says, they want to do it's unacceptable. It's against the rules. And they went ahead and did it anyway. And that's unacceptable. And it should bother people that are veterans out there. Because once again, you don't get to use the graves of our fallen warriors for your political backdrop. And that's exactly what Donald Trump did.
Now, I look at this and look, he's done distasteful things in the past. I mean, the comments of suckers and losers. I mean, to me, the comments about John McCain should have been disqualifying from the beginning. But there seems to be a pattern here. There seems to be something that he keeps doing this stuff. And, well, there's really no repercussion. Yeah, this has been in the news a couple of days, but there's really no repercussion here that I see.
No, there's not. I mean, they've already said that, the female that was verbally and physically assaulted chose not to press charges because she worries what the backlash from the Trump-a-loons will be. And that's what's messed up, is that, okay, let's go ahead and give Donald Trump another pass because we don't want his poorly educated followers to be throwing stones at anybody. I don't see how anybody that's ever served in the military, anybody who has ever taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, could even look at Donald Trump in any other way than he is absolutely the worst person possible to be the next president of the United States. It bothers me that he has no respect. Every day he says something that is normally should be something that should basically cause somebody to lose, but he continues to just get a pass and be the worst version of himself that he can possibly be.
Oh, and also the worst version of the face of this country. I mean, the sad reality is he's a reflection of us. If we don't repel him, if we don't hold him accountable, clearly he can't do it. So if we're not willing to do it, this is what we get: garbage in, garbage out.
And I see that in his supporters. They refuse, no matter what Donald Trump does, they give him a pass. No matter, Fox News had to pay a $787 million fine for lying to the people, and they never stop. They're continuing to do the same thing, and the bad part about it is there's a lot of poorly educated people, and I don't care. I call it the way I see it. Poorly educated people that fall for this stuff every day, that think that Donald Trump is actually, fighting for them. And he's not fighting for you. He's not fighting for that coal miner. He's not fighting for that guy that works in the auto industry. He's not fighting for that. Donald Trump fights for one thing: himself. And that's all he cares about. And until people wake up and see that, then we're on this path. And you know what? Every single person that's ever served in the military should be absolutely livid at the fact that Donald Trump used Arlington National Cemetery as a photo op. And that should anger everybody. And anybody who's in the military this is the straw that should break the camel's back. But will it? I don't know.
Now, I've got a number of emails from people who are asking questions, and I don't have the answer. How often has Donald Trump gone to these events? How many of he passed over the years? That just his presence there was political in its face, and that this was designed to get him that campaign ad, to show him the free media, if you will, that our media would pick up. I guess the question is, does he make it a regular routine of on these holidays showing up?
No, he doesn't. He wasn't there last year on that date. He wasn't there the year before that on that date. He came this time because it's election time. And understand that once again, he's trying to say, I was here and Kamala wasn't. Kamala wasn't there because she knows that the rules are against using Arlington National Cemetery as a photo op. And that's exactly what he did. It amazes me because, once again, people are willing to give this guy a pass. He wasn't there. Donald Trump doesn't care about these people. He doesn't care about anybody that's ever worn the uniform. He calls us suckers and losers. And that's exactly who he is. And, people just need to wake up and see it for what it really is. Yep. No matter what, Donald Trump will always take the lower road.
Ed sent me an email, and because this was one of the questions that came up, and he said, look, Donald Trump missed Memorial Day 2019 in Japan, 2020. He did a ceremony at Fort McHenry and then went golfing. He missed Veterans Day. 2017 sent the vice president. 2018, the 100-year anniversary of World War I in Vietnam, he missed. 2019 in New York City. There's a habit of missing these things, but when it's in his benefit, it's in his interest, highly politicizing it.
Yeah, that's right. It's election time. I got to get out there and take pictures. It's election time. I got to get out there and act like I care about veterans, when the truth is that, once again, like you said, he always sends somebody else, because deep down, we're just suckers and losers. When you had that one veteran that was in a wheelchair that basically, I believe he sang the Star-Spangled Banner, Donald Trump walked over, gave him a hug like, we're with you, and then turned and looked at General Milley and said, don't do this again. Nobody wants to see those people. Let me tell you something. Those people are the best that this country has to offer. That is a fact. Those people and those that are buried in Arlington are the very best that this country has ever produced. And anything that Donald Trump does, like what he did, is an absolute it's a slur against them. It's dirt on their face. And once again, it's what we can expect with Donald Trump.
What should happen? I guess because they keep coming back to, how do you hold people accountable if they won't hold themselves accountable? What should happen to them?
What should happen is Arlington National Cemetery should come out right now and say that Donald Trump is no longer allowed to stand to visit Arlington National Cemetery. I will tell you, I am authorized. If I die tomorrow, my wife can say, I want my husband to be buried at Arlington. I'm going to tell you right now, I have no desire. If that's where Donald Trump plans to be buried, I have no desire to be buried anywhere on the same grounds as that guy. He shouldn't be allowed to be buried there. He is a disgrace, and Arlington should call him out. Arlington should ban Donald Trump. Once again, it wasn't like they accidentally did this. They knew exactly what they were doing. And when they got told you can't do this, they still verbally and physically assaulted a person who was trying to tell them, you cannot do that here at this site, especially at Plot 60. They didn't care. And that's who Donald Trump really is. He don't respect that. He don't respect that veteran, that person working for Arlington National Cemetery. And it shows. He don't respect us. He don't respect them.
Yeah, it's just one of these things. And now I'm looking at this Project 2025, which I know you've talked about extensively, and how this plan will harm our national security, how it's going to harm veterans. There's so much to this. It's not just these bad acts that we see in public. It's the policies, I believe, that are going to come along with it. Can you speak a bit to what you see in Project 2025?
Yes, let me tell you something. One of the things they're talking about is they're basically saying, well, if you draw retirement, then you can't draw disability. Well, let me tell you something. We draw retirement because we put over 20 years towards our country in uniform. We also draw disability because during our 20 plus years, you broke us. You sent us into harm's way, where we found ourselves exposed to toxins, where we found ourselves in combat, in firefights. For them to even act like they're going to take that away, that's a slap in the face. It is a slap in the face. They don't care about our military. They don't care about the people that are serving in uniform. Once again, when the five people were killed in Africa, they were literally outnumbered, were chased down and murdered. Donald Trump, that was one of the very few times that Donald Trump actually went to the airfield to accept the remains. And what did he do? He got into an argument with one of the parents of the fallen soldiers, because that's who Donald Trump is. He doesn't care about us. As a matter of fact, I believe that he actually holds it against us because there's a level of respect that veterans get in this country, especially combat veterans. And that's something that he can't stand deep down.
Now, it comes back to something I've said, for years doing this program. If this is how we treat our heroes, who will sign up to be that next generation of heroes, that next generation of people who have to step to the front in times of crisis? To me, all of this is very telling on who these folks are.
If you're going to try to chip away at the benefits that we have in the military, then you're going to find yourself not being able to make your numbers. Are they going to do a draft again? Because that's what will happen. A lot of people join the military for college, but a lot of people, when they get into the military, they realize that you're surrounded by people that are like-minded, and you build relationships. And I'm talking about a brotherhood, a sisterhood that is not equaled in any other aspect of life. I'm telling you right now, my wife knows if I get a phone call tonight at midnight from Peanut Swartz, who calls me and says, "Sir, I need you," there's no question. I grab my bag and I go. Why? Because he was with me in combat. He went outside the wire with me every single time we went outside the wire. And I will be there for him for the rest of his life, because he'll be there for me. And that's a fact. Folks, I don't know if you know this, but when I was almost murdered, my wife got a phone call. And the guy said, "You don't know me, but I am on my way. And I'm going to make sure nothing happens to my brother." And he showed up. And the next 9 days, when I was trying to get on my feet, when I needed help walking to the bathroom, he was the one that I was leaning on. And there were 2 of them that showed up at my house, and they were ready to do absolute anything to protect me. That's what happens in the military. We got love for each other. And if you want to take what we've got, what we fought for, you want to take our benefits from us, then don't you dare act like you give a crap about us, because you don't.
I got to tell you, it's hard to hear the things that they're trying to do. And I'm sure that on the other side, they're going, no, Rich, we would never do that to you. You're a hero. And you would get the words and the platitudes. How do we respond to that when those things come?
We have to fight that. We have to make sure that everybody knows that that's unacceptable. We have to make sure, people don't, if the military was easy, everybody would do it. It's not. It is a hard life. You spend a lot of time away from your wife and your children. You're always on the go. There's no such thing as an 8-hour work day in the military. You're usually at work before 6 o'clock in the morning, and you don't go home until usually after at least 5 in the afternoon. And if you're a leader, you can forget about that. When I was a company commander, I was in my office at 4:30 every single day, every morning at 4:30. And I didn't leave my office until after 9 o'clock, some nights even later, because there's no clock that we punch. We got a job to do, and we do that job. And everybody that's ever served in the military understands exactly what I'm talking about. We cannot let these people that come up with this Project 2025. Project 2025 is going to be damaging to every single person in this country, period. But it's also going to be very damaging to the elderly. It's going to be very damaging to the poor. It's going to be very damaging to people that aren't lily white. We've got to stand up and fight against this. We got a guy who is running for the presidency that doesn't care about the military, who doesn't care about the people. He's not running because he wants to help people find better jobs. He's running to avoid prosecution because he's a criminal. And people need to wake up and realize that. We need to send this guy. He deserves to be held accountable for his many crimes. And we don't deserve to be on the chopping block because a bunch of rich white people got together and come up with a plan that's absolutely sinister to everybody except them.
Rich, I appreciate you taking time for us. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your fight. Keep it up. I hope folks will check out your live every weeknight, 8:30 p.m. Ojeda Live on Facebook and YouTube. Also, check out turnleftpac.org, where you can find out how you can help on veterans issues and to help getting people elected who care about veterans. Rich, thanks, brother.
All the way, my brother.
Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. What can be done to hold Donald Trump accountable? What can be done to ensure that maybe this doesn't happen again? rick@thericksmithshow.com. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1935. That was the day that President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Revenue Tax Act, more popularly known as the Wealth Tax. The act reformed the federal income tax to raise rates on the wealthiest in the nation. Those making over $5 million a year could pay taxes up to 75%. In a speech to Congress that summer, Roosevelt had explained his thoughts on wealth and taxes. The president said, quote, "Wealth in the modern world does not come merely from individual effort. It results from a combination of individual effort and of the manifold uses to which the community puts that effort. The individual does not create the product of his industry with his own hands. He utilizes the many processes and forces of mass production to meet the demands of a national and international market. Therefore, in spite of the great importance in our national life of the efforts and ingenuity of unusual individuals, the people in the mass have inevitably helped to make large fortunes possible. Without mass cooperation, FDR said, great accumulation of wealth would be impossible save by unhealthy speculation." The president went on, as Andrew Carnegie put it, where wealth accumulates honorably, the people are always silent partners. Whether it be wealth achieved through the cooperation of the entire community or riches gained by speculation, in either case, the ownership of such wealth or riches represents a great public interest and a great ability to pay. Although FDR tried to win over the nation's wealthy by quoting industrialist Andrew Carnegie, he did not gain their support. Not surprisingly, many of the nation's wealthy lobbied for and used tax loopholes to evade paying the new tax rates. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So I gotta tell you, it still amazes me how much Donald Trump gets away with and how much the red hats, forgive, forget, don't pay attention, justify. It's amazing to me, especially my religious folk who have done really some spiritual gymnastics to defend Donald Trump's action. And I started thinking about it during the break, because this kind of thing at any other point in our history, of my lifetime anyway, this kind of misbehavior, this kind of really despicable display is a career ender for anyone else ever. And I started thinking about some of the things that we've canceled people in the past for. I think of Dan Quayle, misspelled potato. End of his career. Guy could have been president. He was vice president. Could have been at some point president. Misspelled. Puts an E at the end of potato. Done. Never heard from again. Howard Dean squealed. His voice is shot and he went to go, yeah. And he went, or whatever that was. Done. Gone. Mike Dukakis just looked funny in a hat. Landslide. Done. Gary Hart, Gary Hart had that what was it, Marla Maples, the scandal there. Today, I guess you'd have to be a Republican then, because obviously Gary Hart was a Democrat. Ended his career, done. We never heard from him again. And there are a number of people who've made little things that's it, it's over. And you think of the scandals that the right have thought, the sky is falling. what was it, just yesterday was the 10th anniversary of the black man in the tan suit. Remember that scandal? Obama's wearing a tan suit. And we're about 14 years, a little bit 14 and a half years from the prayer rug scandal on the drapes that had been there for decades. It's amazing how the right gets themselves all frenzied up and attacking, but where there's something to actually be concerned about. Crickets. It's amazing to me. I hope there's a point at which we get back to when people do things wrong, they're held accountable. Maybe. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. So this weekend, obviously Labor Day weekend, a big holiday for me because it's Labor Day, but it's 19 years since we started this program. Labor Day of 2005 is when we kicked off with the little idea that we wanted to add some balance to the airwaves. We wanted to talk about working people issues. We wanted to highlight worker voices and really push an agenda that's going to make our politics more worker friendly, more worker centric. And I'll tell you, coming out of the convention, out of the Democratic convention, the Democratic Party never more pro-labor, and a Republican Party, quite frankly, that is, claiming they're trying, they're saying words. I hope no one believes them, because it was interesting, as I said earlier, J.D. Vance came out and said that their ticket, the Donald Trump J.D. Vance ticket, the most pro-worker ever, evidently. And the firefighters at their convention booed him. And, to be honest, don't boo, as Obama said, vote, because the reason the Republican Party's been horrible for working people. So when someone asks me, well, what do you think? And I say, well, I can't disagree with him. Can't disagree that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance could be the greatest Republican ticket for working people, just based on how bad they've been in the past. The bar not very high in being the most pro-worker ever. The Republican Party has been the weapon by which we've destroyed the working conditions built through the 20th century. All of this deregulation, all of the pendulum swing of taxes and oversight going to corporate interests and the moneyed interest, and attacking the power of workers to organize, to fight for better wages, hours, conditions. That's on display. From the firing of the Patco workers by Reagan forward, what we've seen is just an all-out assault. That pendulum, I hope, kind of swinging a little bit back as workers are starting to go, hey, we want some more power. In fact, the Teamsters on Thursday held a rally with Adam Schiff and their Teamster president O'Brien and a number of Amazon workers with the intent of going, look, we're going to organize Amazon. We're going to make these jobs the kind of living wage jobs that they've destroyed. Because I remember a day, and I guess I'm getting a little bit older, but I remember a day where you got one of these jobs, you could make a pretty good living. You had a decent wage, you had health and retirement security, you had job security. You didn't have to worry if you were going to die of heat exposure. So for me, in this moment, as we're seeing the numbers, people saying that they approve of labor unions like never before, because I think they understand that that's how we're going to make lives better. I think we've moved towards helping accomplish my mission of adding that balance, of promoting a pro-worker message, of getting more people involved, telling their stories, holding politicians accountable. We've grown from one station in central Pennsylvania to now, I think we're on more than 50 radio stations across the country and our free speech TV show. We have grown this in ways that I could have never imagined 19 years ago. And it's with the help of all of the folks who tune in, all the people who download our podcasts, all of our guests, all of our sponsors, all of the people who think that this is important. So on this Labor Day, I want to reach out to everyone and say thank you for everything you've done over the years. This has been an incredible ride thus far, and looking forward to moving that bar and that ball a little bit further down the road, making lives better, making opportunities better, and fighting for that, well, that more perfect union. So I want to hear your thoughts. Anything this Labor Day weekend you want to share with me, Rick at thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any of today's program, the podcast, make sure you get that, share with your friends, family, great Labor Day gift. And as always, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.